It's so good to be here. And before I get into the message, I just want to take a moment and just say a few things. First off, Mother Parsley, what an honor. What an honor to have you here. Wow. Thank you. Thank you for your faithfulness. So incredible. And then Elder Bill Canfield. I mean, how many of you love the best wingman any pastor could ever have? Absolutely amazing. And then, I don't know if you do this a lot, I'm sure you do, but will you just take a moment and just appreciate all of the staff and volunteers of World Harvest Church? I mean, you can't even imagine what it takes to make this happen every single Sunday. This is a miracle every Sunday. And then Pastor and Miss Joni and your family, if you're watching this morning, just thank you. Thank you for what you've imparted into me. Thank you for what you've instilled into me. My life was changed the day I stepped foot onto this campus for the first time. It was here I received the baptism of the Holy Spirit. It was here I received a call to ministry. It was here that I received the training, and I'll be forever indebted and grateful to you. Thank you so much. Just real quick, just take a moment and appreciate the first family of World Harvest Church, will you? All right, you may be seated. We're going to have a little fun this morning. Now, I don't know if you've ever been at a baseball game or a football game, and it gets real exciting. I know down in Cincinnati, especially in the summertime, it gets exciting because in the middle of the game, people will run out with beach balls and they'll start hitting beach balls around. And it's nothing like a party when the beach balls get going. So we got some beach balls this morning, so I want you to get ready. We're going to have some fun in here this morning. Here we go. Got a little wipeout from the band. You know what to do. All right, let's reel it in a little bit. Here, give me that one right there. Give me that one right there. That's awesome. Thank you. All right. You just have to bear with me. I believe church should be the funnest place to go on the weekend. It's always an exciting thing when the beach balls come out. But did you notice what happened when the beach ball started coming your way? I mean, when the beach ball just started approaching you, people were getting out of their seats. Their hands are going in the air. They started laughing. They started screaming. They started shouting. They're hitting it. They're getting involved. All for a beach ball. Here's what I've learned. Your praise is an indicator of what you believe is coming your way. Now you got real excited when this beach ball stomach started coming at you. How many of you believe healing's coming your way and deliverance is coming your way and financial blessing is coming your way and salvation is coming your way? I've come with a word this morning, and that word is this: take the limits off. Turn to somebody and say, take the limits off. Take the limits off. Look at this in Psalms chapter 78, verse 41. The Bible says, yea, they turned their back and they tempted God. This whole chapter is incredible. They turned their back and they tempted God, and they limited the Holy One of Israel. They limited the Holy One of Israel. They remembered not his hand, nor the day when he delivered them from the enemy. They didn't remember what he had done. And they lost their praise. And the moment they lost their praise, the moment they lost their worship, they began to put limits on God. Their worship ceased because they limited God. Now, here's what I want you to understand this morning. It's not that God was limited. but rather what they believed God could do was limited. Now, I looked up the word limited here in Psalm 78. I wanted to understand the real translation, and here is the actual translation of this word limited in Psalm 78. You ready? To cause pain. They limited God, or in other words, when they put limits on God, it actually caused God pain. It hurt God for someone to limit him. In Genesis 22:16, God said to Abraham, he said, by myself I have sworn, declares the Lord. Christianity has at its core certain pillars that uphold what we believe. Two of these pillars are faith and worship. And these pillars are interconnected. Somehow, faith helps my worship, and worship helps my faith. The greater faith you have, the greater your worship would be. And the greater you worship, it somehow builds your faith. They're so connected together that when faith is attacked, it hinders your worship. And when you stop worshiping, you begin to limit your faith. Here's the big idea. True faith and worship have for their target God. True faith is not believing God for something, it is believing in God. True worship is not based on your circumstances. True worship is based on the simple idea, God is, in spite of my circumstances. So if my faith is not in place, then my worship will be out of place. See, people who you used to try to quiet down in the church, but now they're the quietest in the church, it might be an indicator that their faith has been attacked somewhere in their life, and as a result their worship is out of place. This is the reason I said to you, the level of your praise is an indicator of what you believe faith is coming your way. But we've allowed the enemy to put limits on our faith, and it's being revealed through our lack of praise. Let me explain what the beach ball is all about. When you first got saved, you had faith like this. You had big faith. When you first got saved, man, you would believe God for anything. You'd believe him for healing and he would heal you. You would believe him for deliverance, he'd deliver. You had so much faith, you'd believe God for toothpaste and Crest would show up on your doorstep. You had big faith. But then you joined a church and you got around church people. And when you got around church people, your faith went from this to this. Because church people have a way of telling you that when you're believing for a new job, well, now look, don't get disappointed if God doesn't give it to you. And when you say, I'm believing God's going to heal me, well, just understand, he doesn't heal everybody. And so you went from big faith to little faith, and you've limited God and his ability in your life. I want to talk about some of these limits this morning. Somebody shout, take the limits off. Here's the first limit I want to talk to you about. It's the limit of doubt. Psalm 78:17, but they sinned even more against him. They rebelled against the Most High in the wilderness. They tested God in their heart by asking food of their fancy. They spoke against God. They said, can God prepare a table in the wilderness? Can he give bread also? Can he provide meat for his people? Therefore, God heard this and was furious, because they did not believe God and they did not trust in his salvation. Can God, will God Is God able? I've learned there are two types of people in church. There are can-Godders and God-canners. And can-Godders walk around saying things like, can God heal? Can God deliver? Can God bless? But then there's God-canners, and God-canners walk around saying, God can heal, God can deliver, God can bless. Nothing is too hard for the Lord. And they said, God, you don't understand how bad this wilderness is. And they started measuring God against their wilderness. And God said, don't measure me, measure your desert. Your desert has a beginning and an ending. I'm the Lord. I have no beginning and ending. And I think this is why God was so insulted. See, they started treating God like a man or a superman. We do the same thing. We just treat God like a glorified man. And God says, now listen, if your faith and worship are going to work, then let me start off by telling you what I'm not. I am not a man. Not even a superman. I'm not the best in my class. I'm in a class all by myself. And this is why when I went to swear to Abraham, I looked to my left, my right, nobody was there. And I looked to my left and nobody was there. I was all by myself. So since I couldn't swear by anybody else, I had to swear by myself. I had to swear by myself because I'm the only one who can hold me accountable to my own word. See, God is not faithful because he keeps his word to you, because if he didn't, you couldn't do anything about it. God is faithful because he holds himself accountable to his word. But because we look at him like a man, we believe he has limitations. So when I went back to Cincinnati, I wanted to have this live nativity, and we thought, man, it's cold in Cincinnati in December, this live Bethlehem scene. And we said, well, we've got this big metal gymnasium. We'll have this live nativity inside the gymnasium. It'll be warm. It'll be nice. And we'll bring in all these animals. We'll bring in calves and a donkey and all these sheep and goats. And we'll build a manger right there in the building. And we'll build the whole town of Bethlehem. And that's what we did. It was beautiful. You felt like you was in Bethlehem 2,000 years ago. And it was my job to keep up with the animals. So we had built this pen, and we had these large boards that went across to hold them into their pen. Now, the man who built it, he told me, he said, Eric, he said, when you put the board on, make sure you take this wire and wrap the wire around the board, or else they'll get out. Well, I was over there one day, and I had to go home and clean up before the big production that night, and I put the boards on, and I felt the boards, man, they were heavy. They're not going anywhere. And so I put the boards on, and I didn't attach the wire. I came back about 2 hours later, and I walk in, and I hear something in the city of Bethlehem. And I walk and I step into the city, and there's 5 sheep that are just looking at me. And they are eating the entire town of Bethlehem. I went to get him, and the donkey is standing in the middle because he got out of his pen too, and I can't get to the sheep. Well, when I finally got around the donkey to go for the sheep, listen, let me explain something to you. When sheep get nervous, there is a chemical reaction that takes place in their digestive system, and they start producing manure. But it's not what you think of. It's like malted milk balls, and it comes out and it just starts rolling everywhere. And so here I am, and I'm trying to chase down these sheep, and they're slipping on their milk duds, and I mean, here I am, and I'm running around, I'm slipping on it, and they're flying everywhere. Now I'm thinking Bethlehem is eaten, the manger is destroyed, and I got manure all over the building. Why? Because I left one limit off of their pen. They got out and took over the whole city. What's going to happen when God sets you free from one limit that the enemy has put on your life? You're about to go into the devil's territory and wreak havoc on everything that the enemy has been trying to bring into your life. Somebody shout, take the limits off. Let's talk about another one. Let's talk about the limit of familiarity. The limit of familiarity. I'm going to say something to you that's going to help somebody. Not everybody is for you. You don't believe that, just be successful. Because the moment you start to get ahead of them, they're not going to be as happy as they used to be. Not everybody wants you to succeed. Not everybody wants you to be blessed. And the Bible says when Jesus came back into Nazareth, where he was raised, watch out for home folks. Watch out for the people that grew up with you. Because all they remember is who you were. They have no idea who you are. And they will always remind you about who you were. Aren't you Mary's son? Aren't you Joe's boy? Didn't we used to visit you in the carpentry shop? Watch out for people who always want to remind you, hold on, aren't you the drug addict? See, it's not that God has run out of miracles. It's that everywhere we go in the church, we have limits on God. Jesus, the Bible said, could do no great miracles except heal a few. It didn't say he would not. It said he could not because of the limitations of familiarity the people had put on his life. We've limited God right out of the church. We've limited ourselves out of the miraculous. We've limited ourselves out of signs and wonders and miracles. And hear me, we've limited the supernatural out of our ministers. I had in 2011, I had the incredible opportunity to serve Pastor Parsley and to travel on that Apex bus tour. And we went literally all over the country in that bus. And on one of the stops, we had to go through Gatlinburg, Tennessee, hillbilly Las Vegas. We had to go right through Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and Pastor decided that he wanted to go grocery shopping. I'm like, Pastor, I mean, you got to understand something. I grew up watching Pastor Parsley on television, man. I never got comfortable on that bus. I was always a nervous wreck. And that's because of the honor and the respect I have for him. Don't ever let a miracle become ordinary. And I would get on that bus, and no matter how much time we spent together, I never got to a place that he was ordinary to me. He always held that position of honor in my life, still does today. And so he said, I need to go to the grocery store. I said, Pastor, please let me. No, I'm going to the grocery store. So here we go. It's me and Pastor, and we're walking through the grocery store, and he's got the shopping cart. And I'm thinking, my God, I'm in a grocery store with Rod Parsley. This is incredible. And he's pushing his own shopping cart. I can't believe this. And we're walking down the aisle, and we turn down one of the aisles. As sure as I'm standing here, I went, Pastor, there's Jesus. He's like, oh, come on, man. We turn the aisle. The man saw us and turns around, and Jesus comes walking at us. And he says, excuse me, are you Pastor Parsley? He said, yes, I am. He said, my name is so-and-so. I play Jesus in the Passion play in Gatlinburg. You thought I was lying, didn't you? You thought I was seeing things. I know, I'm telling you the truth. He said, no, I played Jesus in the Passion play in Gatlinburg. And we had a conversation, and we left, and I laughed, and I put my head down. I went, only with Rod Parsley do you run into Jesus at the grocery store. Can I tell you something? And those of you watching iHeart TV, and you go to another church, if you would stop treating your pastor as an ordinary thing and stop calling him Joe and Bobby and Jim, and you would honor him for the office that he holds, you would see the supernatural show up in your church. You may run into the grocery store and find Jesus with your pastor. Take the limits off. We got to quit apologizing for the supernatural. Every church conference I go to, we got to keep it calm. Let's not let things get out of control. That we can't let people get confused. Listen, at the book of Acts, when the Holy Spirit fell, people were confused. That's what made them want to see more. What is this? We want to know more about it. He could do no mighty works. The next chapter, Capernaum, everybody's healed, everybody's delivered. When God says he's about to take you to a place that you've never been before, you'll limit yourself because you're too familiar with yourself. You know yourself too well. And therefore, when God gives you a word, you don't believe it because you remember who you are. When God showed up to Gideon and said, Gideon, you're going to do this, this, and this, Gideon said, oh, hold on a second. You don't know who you're talking to. See, my daddy did this and my granddaddy did this. And God said, hold on, I didn't interview your family when I decided to call you. And I feel like I need to tell somebody in this church today, God did not check Facebook to see what people were saying about you when he called you and told you you're going to do the impossible. Stop limiting God in your own life. Somebody shout, take the limits off. How about this limit? The limit of lack. Jesus had been preaching all day. His disciples came up and said, Lord, send the people home. They're too hungry. And Jesus said, well, what do we have? Well, we got 5 loaves and 3 fishes. And Philip looked at Jesus and he said, Lord, even if we had 200 pennyworth, it would not be enough except for each person to take a little mentality. Did you notice in the story of the prodigal son, when the young man comes home, the father says, kill the fatted calf. Then the elder brother says, now come over here, daddy. I've served you all these years and you've never even killed a skinny goat for me. And here's the problem in the church today. The father has a fatted calf mentality, but the church has a skinny goat mentality. God's about to take the limits off of your mind. You're about to lose that getting by, scraping by, barely going to make it mentality. Somebody shout, take the limits off. I want to speak a word into you. And Jabez called on the God of Israel saying, oh, that you would bless me indeed. That means abundantly and enlarge, multiply, increase exceedingly my territory. And God granted him what he requested. Take the limits off. What would happen if we as a church decided to take these little limits off of our life and just believe that God is able to provide exceeding abundantly above all that which we could ever ask or think? Take the limits off. So God is furious when he's dealing with these people in Psalm 78, because every time he turns around, they start throwing another limit on him. Another little limit, and we're doing it in the church today. Another limit. Another limit. They remembered not God or how he brought them out. They forgot all of his miracles, all the marvelous things he had done. Here's what happened to these people. They lost their capacity for awe. Awe, wow, wonder. When they lost their awe, that awesome, they lost their praise. And no more praise equals limits. And God says, hold on a second. You're limiting me? You're putting limits on me? Let me remind you of something. God doesn't need you. It is the ultimate arrogance to think that God needs us. Well, Pastor, I'm sorry. He needs my praise. He doesn't need your praise. He had praise before you were ever even created. He doesn't need you. Well, then why would God create something that he doesn't need? If he didn't create me because he needs me to give him something, maybe he has so much that he desired to give something. And maybe God wanted to create something that had the capacity, the ability of wonder, awe, wow. No eagle has ever got up in the morning and seen a sunrise and went, wow. No fish has ever been swimming through the ocean and went, hey, this place is deep. Wow. Because they don't have the capacity for awe. Awesome. Somebody say awesome. That is a grossly overused and undervalued word. Your cup of coffee this morning may have been great, but it wasn't awesome. Your car may be great, but it's not awesome. That new outfit you just picked up may be beautiful, but it's not awesome. The word awesome means causing awe or terror, inspiring wonder or excitement, a mixed feeling of reverence, fear, and wonder caused by something majestic. And God said, I'm going to create a being that has the capacity for awe, wonder, wow. Say wow. And so God does things, little things, for one reason. He wants to provoke a wow out of you. Help me out this morning. There are 350,000 galaxies that have been discovered, most of which couldn't be seen before the Hubble telescope. Wow. Now, have you ever thought, why would God create all that when we couldn't even see it? Because he knew one day we would invent the technology to look out there and see it, and when we saw it, we'd all go, wow. An electric eel has the capacity to vent a discharge of 600 volts. Wow. A cockroach can live for 3 weeks without its head. And a little gross. There are 225 muscles in the head of a caterpillar. Wow. The stomach's digestive acids are strong enough to dissolve zinc. Fortunately for us, the cells in the stomach lining renew so quickly that the acids don't have time to dissolve it. Wow. Blood has a long road to travel. Laid end to end, there are about 60,000 miles of blood vessels in the human body. And the hard-working heart pumps about 2,000 gallons of blood through those vessels every day. Wow. There are people who devote their life to studying the cardiovascular system. There are people who devote their life to studying insects. There are people who devote their life to looking into space. There are people who devote their life to studying plants. Why? Because anything God has ever made, you can get lost in it. Wow. Turn to somebody and just say, wow. Husbands, if you're sitting next to your wife, that's a good, that's brownie points right there. Just say, woo-wee, wow. Think about this. No two fingerprints are the same. Wow. We're in Ohio. It's about to start snowing any day now. That ain't a wow. But you know what science tells us? No two of those snowflakes are alike or ever will be alike or ever have been alike. How long's it been snowing? And no two snowflakes have ever been alike? And how many people have been born and no two fingerprints have ever been alike? What's God saying? He's saying, I never come to the end of what I'm doing. But I want you to look at your fingers and I want you to see the snow that falls and understand, if I'm paying attention to snowflakes and fingerprints, what do you think I'm thinking about you? Somebody shout, wow. Wow. But some people want to water down the wow. They want to silence the awe. This is why when Jesus came riding in on Palm Sunday, the Pharisees stood around and said, Lord, tell those disciples, be quiet. They're causing too much of a disturbance. And Jesus looked at them and said, I tell you this, if they hold their peace, the rocks and the stones would immediately begin to cry out. And I began to wonder, why, God, did you say that? And when I understood that we were created with the capacity for wow, I think I get what Jesus was saying here. It makes more sense for something that does not have the capacity for wow to give praise than it does for someone who has seen me and seen my glory to hold their peace and not cry out. But we do it every Sunday. We sit in here and we dare God to amaze us. We sit in here and God says it makes more sense for a rock to praise me that can't see wow than for you who woke up this morning, than for you who had blessings on your life, for you have seen my hand in your life not to praise me. And let me say something about your praise. Don't expect people to understand your praise. They've not been wowed the way you've been wowed. They've not been awed the way you've been awed. They've not seen the wonder that you've seen. I wonder if there's anybody in here this morning who God has ever done something in your life that just left you stepping back going, wow, 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 wow. And there may be some who say, oh, will you sit down, will you calm down? You just look at them and say, you've not seen what I've seen, and you've not experienced. You weren't there when the devil tried to kill and steal and destroy me. You weren't there when he tried to back me up and push me back. You weren't there when he tried to wreck my mind and wreck my body, and God stepped in right on time. Wow. Come on, I wish somebody who's had a wow moment would give God praise in this place. Is there anybody who can say you've been wowed? I just dare you to find somebody and say, excuse me, I've seen too much to be quiet. I may not hear another word this preacher preaches because I've seen too much. God, I've seen too much. He's shown me too much. He's shown up too much. He's blessed me too much. He's healed me too much. He's provided too much for me to sit here and not give him praise, to show him, God, you have wowed me. You are an awesome God. I just dare you to look over the last year of your life and tell me if God's not shown up and given you wow moments to praise him for. Just look over the last year at how many times you've had to say, wow, what, had it not been for God, what the enemy meant for my evil, he turned it, and I just stepped back and had to say, wow, awesome. And after all of that, God says, I dare you to put a limit on me and what I can do. And then we come to Ephesians 3:20. And Paul says, if you haven't been wowed enough already, now, somebody shout now. Now maybe you can wait till next week to get your miracle, but I need my miracle and I need it. I can't wait till next Sunday. I need a miracle now. Unto him, no limits. He's able. High five somebody and say, he's able to do exceeding, take the limits off, abundantly, take the limits off, above all, that which you could ask or even think. Here's what I want you to do right now. I want you to get your greatest miracle on your mind. Think about the greatest miracle. What is the greatest thing you need God to do? What is the greatest thing you need God to think about it right now? Think about what is the greatest miracle you need God to do. All right, you got it? Now look at somebody and say, if you thought about it, God's going to do more. If you could comprehend it, God's going to do more. If you could ask him for it, God's going to do more. I don't think you heard what I just said. If you asked for a raise, God said, I'm going to do more than that. If you asked for a healing, God said, I'm going to do more than that. Shall take the limits off.